What's up guys, Hobo88 here and welcome back to iRacing, and in this video today we're going to take a look and preview the new V8 Supercars that have just released on iRacing this week. The Holden Commodore, ZB Commodore, which you can see in the background here at the moment, and also the Ford Mustang, which both cars have just released on iRacing this week. 2019 spec cars, and I can't wait to give them a run. I'm really looking forward to this. The video today is a bit of a preview. We're going to take a look at the two cars. We're not going to compare them to each other because they should be the same. The physics behind both cars, to my understanding, is exactly the same, just like the old V8 Supercars. Aesthetically, obviously, they're different, but physics-wise, they should be the same. But we're going to have a bit of a look at both the cars at a couple of different tracks, just spend a few minutes in each car and get a bit of a feel for it, see how these cars compare to the old ones basically. So we're going to kick things off. We're going to do 5 laps or thereabouts here at Mount Panorama, Bathurst in the brand new ZB Holden Commodore. Alright guys, so here we go, the new ZB Holden Commodore. This will become my new car that I drive regularly in the V8 Supercars on iRacing to replace my old Commodore. Newest, latest and greatest version here right now. Let's give it a run. So Bathurst, the obvious place to take one of these cars out to start with. It's a track that I've done so many laps at in the past, and it'll give me a good feel straight away for what this car is like compared to the old cars. I am just running the baseline setup in this entire video. I'm not changing anything. The only changes I'm making is to the gearing. So I've just changed the gearing here to suit the track. Otherwise, everything's completely standard. It's full fuel tank, I think it was 111 litres, I think I saw. And weather across all the sessions, iRacing default weather. Afternoon skybox, so very hot track. But that's all I'm using if you guys are wanting to know that, so you can compare. I don't know. That's what's going to be in all the tracks that we see in this video. So far, outlap, not a lot of grip, which is kind of what I expected. This car, probably the biggest change between this car and the old one, even though they have got all new physics, is probably the tyre. So the Supercar's now on tyre model 7, which is the latest and greatest when it comes to tyre models on iRacing. A handful of cars on the service are now on that tyre model, and they're all sort of moving that way. The only one that I've driven though on this tyre model is the Skip Barber. But I know that the Skippy definitely struggles for grip in the first couple of laps. So from what I understand, these cars should be the same. They'll take a couple of laps to get up to speed with grip, and that's what I've found so far. They're very, very dicey here on the first lap. It is a hot track, so I mean, in the old car you're probably looking at, I don't know, 207, 208 maybe lap time, something like that. But just a standard sort of lap in this weather, full fuel. On the baseline setup, yeah, probably a 2:08 maybe, something like that. So we'll see over a few laps here if we can get a bit of a feel for it and maybe lower our time. It's definitely feeling a little bit more gripped up here on the second time up the hill. Much better actually. Still a little bit icy. This is genuinely my first laps in these cars as well, guys, just so you know. You can see we're setting all purple sectors because it's the first time we've driven the car around the track. So it definitely feels a lot more gripped up than the old supercar. That's what I can tell straight off the bat. Although the tyres are still coming up, there's a lot more grip. I mean, the car's less twitchy and nervous feeling, just in general. But it's got a lot. It feels like it's got a lot of front end grip on the front corner of the car. When you turn in to the corner, it sort of initially sort of understeers maybe a little, or not even. It's hard to explain what it does when you first tip the car into the corner, because it sort of feels like it understeers and then it grips up a bit and you almost go into a bit of oversteer. But then mid-corner, when that front end sort of bites, the car's got a heap of traction, a heap of grip, whereas in the old car you would get a bit of terminal understeer if you were pushing too hard. This car feels like I'm not going anywhere near hard enough. It's gripping up so much in the mid-corner with the front tyre. Like I can be pushing harder through the corners. That's just my initial thing that I'm feeling the most here, especially coming across the top. It's very easy to almost turn in a little early. And there again, there it's sort of, again, it just, right before you get to the apex, it almost rips up and turns in more than you expect it to. It definitely feels a lot nicer to drive than the old car, as far as the old car is very unstable. Or it feels very unstable anyway. Whereas this, it feels softer. The car feels the car feels softer, but it grips better. I kind of feel like the old car's almost a bit rigid. I mean, I'm nearly holding that flat through there as well on this sort of track temp. Through the right-hand kink there, coming off the chase. You wouldn't be able to do that in the old car. So a lot more rear grip as well off the corners. We've just done a 206.2. Mine are not even really pushing. Got that a little bit wrong. So yeah, the car definitely feels like it generates a lot more grip. And it seems to just get better and better as the tyres come up. We're now on lap 4. If you include our lap, that is. Wow, that almost held it flat up over the bump. The way that it bites with the front and turns almost feels GT3-ish. I don't do much GT3 driving, so it's hard for me to compare, but I'm getting Mercedes Bathurst 12-hour vibes coming across the top. The car just feels better and better every time that we go across. So we're going to come down here and complete our third flying lap. We'll go 2 more. Quite sure about the braking efficiency down there, and we got it a bit wrong. Oh yeah, able to get on the throttle so much earlier than you could with the old car, and it sort of grips up. I got back to full throttle very early there out of turn 1, which you just can't do in the old car, not like that. Back full throttle really early there too at turn 2. I like it. Provides a lot of confidence. Early full throttle again. Didn't have an optimal line through the bump, had to lift a little. A little bit more confident through there this time, faster. Oh yeah, it bit as he got down into the grate. Oh, so he turned in too early there. So much more front grip. Oh, we missed that though. So much more front grip than I was expecting. A little nervous under brakes coming across Skyline there though. I've noticed that. Back to full throttle really early again coming off the hill out of Forest Elbow. So the car's generating a lot of grip, a lot of good drive off the corner and a lot of good mid-corner grip. See, that's pretty well held that flat through there. Alright, one more lap. We'll see what we can do here. Oh, yeah, you couldn't catch it that easily in the old car. So much more drivable. Now that wasn't probably very quick there, but you just can't catch a car like that easily in the old supercar. Back into the throttle really early there. That was great. Oh, it feels really nice. Too deep into there. Not brave enough to hold it flat across there, but I think you could. Yeah, beautiful. The only thing I'll say that I'm not liking so much, and it could be something in the setup as well, but something, it just feels a little bit awkward. Initially you brake, you don't quite, it's hard for me to pick up exactly what sort of brake performance I'm going to have each time. And then the car's a little, I don't know, it's almost difficult to predict what it's going to do initial turn in. Sometimes it sort of feels like it understeers, sometimes it grips up really well. And then sometimes it bursts into massive oversteers, so what do we do? 206.2. That's not bad. Let's have a look at a replay of that lap, and then what we're going to do is we're going to come back, we're going to check out the Mustang, and we're going to check it out at Phillip Island. Alright guys, so here we go. Time to have a run in the Mustang. I know, right? The Mustang. Actually pretty cool car. I mean, this is pretty cool to have in the sim. I mean, I'm not a Ford guy, but this is a very, very good race car, without a doubt. So let's see what it's like. I like straight away, I like the dash on the wheel. I think that's nice. Now, Phillip Island, obviously another track that I know quite well. Oh, those tyres. Wow. Wow. Oh, what's going on? There's no grip at all in the sand. Wow, that's interesting. That didn't feel like a gravel trap at all. Alright. Phillip Island, another track that I know quite well, so we should be able to get a pretty good gauge on how the cars feel compared to how the car feels compared to the old Commodore, at least. Straight away, I like the fact that there's no bonnet bulge. I mean, it feels like I could be driving the Holden, honestly. Which, I mean, I think will make it a lot easier to transition between one car and another. Again, all baseline setup. The only thing I've done is change the ratio. Although the tyres are quite cold, I can really feel that mid-corner grip again. It's really quite good, and through there. So it is a lot better mid-corner grip. Oh, understeer off the turn. Man, the grass is very floaty feeling. So you really can't push on a cold tyre at all. See how much grip we've got down here at turn 2 this time. Much better. Still not quite up to temp yet though. So I think low 1 minute 30s, if I remember correctly, is about what we run here. Again, default iRacing weather in the afternoon, so it puts us up well up over 50-degree track temp. So that mid corner, it's taken a bit of getting used to because it's so different. And then you can actually drive off the corner and the rear doesn't spin out on you. A little annoying that the dash behind the wheel, I mean, I don't know if that's a bug, if it's meant to actually work like a dash or if it's just meant to be like a sticker. But it doesn't do anything. I'd rather just have like Ford decals or something like the Commodore has if it's not going to work. So we've done a 32.5 there on that lap, despite being very tentative. My God, it just has so much traction. Bit wide down there through MG. This corner's always really hard to get the power down. Not anymore. So what are we going to do here? It's going to be into the 30s nearly, a 131 flat. Oh wow, back to full throttle so early there. What I like about it is that the car feels way more drivable. What I don't like is, I shouldn't say it's easy, because it's still not easy, but it's a lot easier to drive than the old car was, so that's not a bad thing, but it's going to be, I think, harder to be really competitive in this car, because a lot more people will be able to drive it now, I think. Interesting to see what happens. What kind of a lap time do we get out of it here? Try and not get an off track this time. So it's a 1 minute 30.3 that time by. And there's still heaps of time to find as well. So this will be our final lap around. Just pushing the limits a bit on how far we can go under brakes, how hard we can go into the corner, how hard we can get off the turns. Still getting caught out a little bit by the amount of mid-corner grip that we have. Oh, too fast through there though. Alright, well there we go. That's the Ford Mustang here at Phillip Island. 5 flying laps around there. We actually did one less because of the way that the start line is coming out of the pit lane, but that's alright. A couple of quick flyers here at Phillip Island in the Mustang. I mean, like I said, the physics-wise it's the same as the Commodore, so the cars themselves are no different to each other, but compared to the old cars, there's big differences to be found. I did want to do some laps here at Phillip Island because it's a good place to really feel out what the car's like in long, sweeping, hard to get traction corners, especially on a hot track. And I mean, it's very easy to drive around here once the tyres come up. So interesting. We'll watch the replay. We'll come back right after this. We're going to hit up Montreal in the ZB Commodore. Okay, guys, welcome to Canada. We're at Montreal, and we're going to go and have a run around here in the ZB Commodore. Same as the last two. Same as the last two tracks. It's default afternoon. Oh, 50% track state too. I never mentioned that earlier. 50% track state. But you guys might be wondering why Montreal. I wanted to come here and try this track because it is a track that I've done quite a few laps at in the past. But it's a track I like to use for testing because I feel like it offers a good variety of challenges for setting up the car. Specifically traction zones, because there's quite a few difficult traction zones here, coming off the hairpin or turn one where it's on a big angle. In fact, all the traction zones around this track are a little bit unique and quite difficult, so I find that good. It's also a good place to set up the car, or to work on setting up the car for curb hits. Obviously there's a couple of big curb hits around this track, so I feel like this will be a place we can learn a bit about how the cars drive. But I haven't driven here in months, so I'm a little rusty. A bit nervous about that. I'm also a bit nervous about, I am familiar with the fact that the tyre on the car does not handle the curbs very well. You can tip these things over off the back of a big curb, so hopefully we don't roll here. Just trying to feel this out. They handled the bump there really nicely though, although we didn't do it very well. Alright, so a little curb roll there, that's nice. Oh, and they've still got cold tyres. Just didn't grip up at all there. And man, just hold it flat off the corner. This is another corner that if you clip the inside of that curb, you probably tip the car over, so we need to avoid that. Another very difficult traction zone there. The car just, it's so stable under power. It's really nice to drive actually. See if we get any slowdowns as well. It sounded like it bottomed out across that curb. Might have been hitting the splitter. It's something that we've never really had to deal with before in the V8s. I can't remember lap times for here to know what our speed is like, but that's not really what I'm testing on. Just trying to get a bit of an understanding of what the car's like. Specifically under power in difficult traction zones and the curb hits. So here we go. Take it easy again. It's nowhere near as rough and violent as it is in the old car, and the way it lands, even on a baseline setup here, is quite nice and soft. Just straight away plant it and go. I love it. So with my limited driving in GT cars, the way what I'm kind of feeling is that it feels like a really soft GT car. I mean, it's got really good drive off the corners, doesn't have obviously the traction control. The way that it apexes the corners with that grip in the mid-turn, and the way that it drives off the corner so well, gives me a little bit of a GT vibe. But it sort of feels really soft, and I mean, even compared to the old supercar, I feel like the old supercar felt really rigid. That's how we used to get speed out of it. It was difficult to drive, it was very stiff. This feels nice and soft. was a bit ugly. But it feels to me a bit like what I think a supercar should feel like. Its performance is really good in that it, you know, generates good speed and traction and drive. Because these days V8 supercars are they're very high performance vehicles. They're not, you know, we kind of all joke about supercars being overpowered and undertired, which they are. But in today's day and age, they seem to be a lot more of a high performance vehicle that handles the cornering aspect and the, you know, that part of racing. It handles the cornering quite well. They do seem almost like GT cars in a lot of ways. Unlike the old days, like the early 90s, where they were soft, mongrel looking things to drive that were just power and difficult to master. They're less like that now. They're more performance cars. And, I mean, that's what this feels like. A really high performance supercar. Still not quite getting that chicane right, but definitely getting what I wanted to learn out of the car, and that's that it does handle the curb hits really well, which I'm excited about, because there's two things I didn't like about the old car. And the thing I didn't like about it the most was the way that it handled like rebound and compression. The car bounced so much, it was difficult, it was hard to drive properly. That's the wrong gear through there. And I mean, it just felt really bouncy and terrible, basically. It just didn't feel soft enough. And if you made it soft, it didn't perform. It was slow. And they've definitely improved that. A lot of that might be the tyre, but it's also... Well, there's going to be a short... Oh no, I thought that was going to be a cut track for sure. But it's definitely the physics of the car as well. The other thing that I didn't like about the old car was how difficult it was under power. Like, oh no! Oh no! I was being silly and I paid the price. I just didn't like how difficult the old car was to drive off the corners. It would get wheel spin, and once you got into a slide, it was really hard to control, whereas this has been, despite what you just saw, been a lot more drivable under power. We've done 4 flies there, that's probably enough. It's you can slide it off the corner and catch it. I touched the grass there, which is what went wrong, but it's yeah, it seems like you can put the power down and have some confidence that the rear of the car is going to stay underneath. And then if it does start to step out, you can sort of counter that without just completely losing it with stupid iRacing physics. So the two things I didn't like about the old car, they've definitely improved. Anyway, we'll take a look at a replay here, and we're going to come back again in the Mustang for the last little run. And we're actually going to head to Sebring. We'll be back for that next. Okie dokie. Last track we're going to have a look at here in this video, Sebring. Back in the Mustang. Again, you might be wondering, well, why Sebring? It's perhaps a bit of a weird choice. Well, again, what I think that we can get out of laps here at Sebring is we can test some stuff in the car. The one thing that we've had so far across the 3 tracks we've already done is that they're all been very smooth road surfaces. Montreal obviously has a few big curb hits, but the track surface itself there, although it is technically a street circuit, is quite smooth. Sebring is rough, it's bumpy, and I did contemplate perhaps using Detroit to test the bumpy road surface, but I find with Detroit it's a track that just doesn't really have a lot of flow to it, whereas Sebring feels a lot more like a racetrack. It's wide open, and we can learn a little bit from here, both curb hits, which you can get it obviously at Detroit as well, but the bumpy road surface, and also quite a few different and unique features about this track. So a couple of, like we just went through there, curved braking areas, some difficult, very difficult braking areas actually, especially down here at the final corner at Sunset Bend. Bumpy, long, sweeping. We get a combination of high and low speed corners here too, so we just continue to struggle with the cold tyre. It's quite difficult on the first lap. So I feel like, yeah, the traction zone off the final corner here as well is really, really hard. It's big bumps in it, so I'm keen to see how this handles that. So I just think we've got a little bit more variety here, I guess, at Sebring than at Belle Isle, whilst we also still get to test out the bumpy track surface. So here we go, we'll do a few laps and see how it handles it. That tyre's still quite cold. That mid-corner grip is the thing I think is most noticeable. It just hooks up on the mid-corner. Once the car settles, it's one of the difficult traction zones there, coming out of the little hairpin. Get a bit of an idea about our braking performance there at that corner as the tyres continue to come up. Couldn't quite get it stopped that time. This is one of the tough acceleration zones, long sweeping corner, and again, no problems at all. And the grass feels so much more slippery though. Again, I've got no idea about lap times to see if we're competitive or not. Like, I mean, I know we will be because we've seen it's much quicker than the old car already from the first 2 tracks alone. Tyres feeling a lot better here on the second run through. Straight across those bumps with the foot flat. go, got it stopped pretty nicely there that time. Let's have a look at this traction zone. Touched the inside curb and everything, and it still didn't try and kill me. It's another track that I haven't driven in a long time. It's taking me a little while to get my eye in again, but yeah, it's just nice. The cars feel really good. I'm way too deep down into Sunset. Lost a big chunk of time there. That's a 2:02.7. Again, really high track temps, full fuel. I think that's pretty good lap time. We actually get through the first corner without getting an off track this time, which is good. Ooh. Messed that up a little bit. And that would have been all kinds of oversteer on the landing off that curb on the inside there, but it absorbed it nicely. And I can't believe how good it drives through the acceleration zones that are curves in them like that. That's incredible. So much confidence under your right foot, which I'm just not used to in these sort of cars. Here we go. Oh, oh. Ooh. You don't want to touch the grass out there. You get to that tyre wall real quick. We'll have 2 more laps. And as the tyres come up, it just gets so much more fun to drive. Wow. It just gets better and better. Right, when it's right on the edge, under power like that, coming off of a corner, especially on a corner, like you do on that long sweeping left-hander after the hairpin. When it's right on the edge of starting to slide, it just feels so good. Beautiful. One more time around. Bit wide. So slowly but surely getting a bit of a feel for the car and how to drive it, where to push. There's a lot of time to be found just by the driver at the minute. And we've only done, what, not even 10 laps in each car. This corner here is amazing, right here. Right on the edge of sliding. Used to be one of the worst corners on the track, now it's one of the best. So I guess for me the things that I don't know that I'm liking at the minute is just that early phase of the corner. The car almost feels a little vague at the turn in, and on the small minor steering inputs the car kind of feels a little strange. But what I'm really liking is the ride control. The car feels soft, like the cars look soft in real life, they feel soft to drive here, which is good. And especially liking the drive off the corners. I think it's really nice to be able to actually drive the car off the turn without worrying about wheel spin and dying as soon as it gets sideways. So that's really nice. iRacing have done a great job. The complaints are very minor, but the praise is very high. So I think these are going to be a heap better car to drive for us going forward from here. I'll be interested to see what the tuning can do. We'll learn more with time, obviously, as we get more comfortable in the cars. But all in all, iRacing done a great job. Let's take a look at the replay here from that last lap around Sebring. That's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Follow me on Twitter at Hobbo88, twitch.tv/Hobbo88 for the live streams. If you're wanting to sign up to iRacing, do not forget to refer my email, which is in the description below. But that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.